Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Latinx Business Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Gomez, and if you're looking to demystify the world of business through the raw, authentic stories of Latinx entrepreneurs, you've come to the right place. As someone with an MBA and an IRS enrolled agent license, I spent years helping freelancers, partnerships, and S corporations navigate the often tricky waters of the US tax law. Now, I'm bringing that expertise and passion to this community right here. So thank you for tuning in, and you know what? It's time to talk business. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Latinx Business Podcast. Thank you so much for spending the time to spend a couple minutes with us. This is one of the short solo episodes, but it's going to be jam-packed of information. Today, we're going to talk about the new provision in the big, beautiful bill that just passed on July 4th of this year, 2025. What happened? So many new provisions, right? So I'm just going to take one at a time. That way you guys don't get bombarded or overwhelmed with so many changes that are happening, especially for tax year 2025. And the first one I want to talk to you guys about, or second one, because we talked about adoption expenses in the last episode, is no tax on tips. So no tax on tips, guys. What does that mean? What that means is that if someone's a service worker, they're not going to pay taxes on $25,000 of tip income, not hourly income, right? So that's huge for, especially for someone. Let's say if they make $50,000, they don't have to pay taxes on $25,000 of income. I do have to make the distinction that you're not going to pay federal income tax on $25,000 of tip income, right? So if you only make $5,000 of tips for the year, you can only take a $5,000 deduction. You can't go over that amount. And then another little caveat of that provision is that you still have to pay Social Security and Medicare taxes, right? Social Security and Medicare is really important to be funded. It's not going to be 100% free. And also, you work for that money. So you are exchanging your time for it. So nothing is ever free. However, it's good thing that at least one of the taxes is going to be lowered, right? So that's the focus here. The focus is that you're not going to pay any federal income tax. All right, so $25,000 per individual, not per tax return, because there are people who are married filing joint, and maybe both individuals work in the service industry. So yes, each of you would get a $25,000 deduction as long as the tips are reported. And then another very important item to note is that, the tips need to be reported on your W-2 or on your 1099. If they're not reported on there, you will not be able to take any deduction, right? So this is very interesting because I can see, for one, people who don't report cash tips because, they don't want to pay taxes on it. And then I can also see people who do pay taxes on their tips because it shows up on their W-2 every year. And then those are the ones that are going to be able to take that deduction. Yeah, so W-2 or 1099, right? Because the IRS all day long will not give you that deduction, or they'll come ringing at your door with a letter. You'll get the letter in the mail that says, hey, we're going to make an adjustment to your tax return because you didn't have any tips reported on your W-2 or your 1099. Okay, now face outs and duration. So face outs, 150K of modified adjusted gross income. You could probably get there pretty fast, even if you have additional sources of income. So that deduction is strictly just to W-2s and 1099, meaning if you have dividends, if you have sales or other sources of income that you make, right, that is reportable on your 1040, you're going to have to keep it under 150 to be able to take that deduction. I don't know what the average person that's a service worker makes, unfortunately, but as long as you can keep it under that, you'll be able to take up to $25,000, right? So again, if you don't have $25,000 of tip on your W-2 or 1099, you won't be able to take that deduction. Now, the duration, it's going to last from 2025 tax year to 2028 tax year. So 4 years, 4 years of deducting $25,000 of federal and not pay federal income tax on that is, overall, if someone takes it for the whole 4 years, that's $100,000 that they're not going to pay any federal income tax on. You will pay Social Security and Medicare taxes, but again, that's for the greater good of our society, because we do want our grandparents and and people that are on Social Security and Medicare to be helped. Okay. And just to give you guys a little background of why tipping started in America, I think it's just a fascinating fact to know. It started during the Prohibition era, or it really took off during the Prohibition era. A lot of restaurants lost revenue because of liquor sales were down, and somehow they needed to like make up that money and also be able to pay their employees, right? So tipping became very, very strong in America during that time. It took off to like other industries and stuff like that, but now most people think about tipping and they think about like service workers or waiters or people, right? So you could be a hairstylist, a tour guide, you could be a delivery driver, so waiters and bartenders, right? So $25,000 would help them, especially because most of them are either making minimum wage or are below the minimum wage, right? So yeah, but yeah, unfortunately, because tipping is so strong in America, I just don't know if we need it now, especially, as a society. If we just paid our service industry workers a little bit better, we wouldn't have to tip them, right? But again, that would have to take a massive societal change and for that to happen. I do want to end the episode with this though, right guys? While the name is No Tax on Tips, it's super simplified. It's like it sounds actually like we shouldn't be overthinking it too much, right? Some people have even contacted me now and they're like, hey, why am I paying tax on my tips right now? And I'm like, yes, because during the year you pay taxes on it, and then at tax time you take the deduction. It's not that easy, right? It's not as easy to say, hey, you're not going to pay any taxes on tips. This is why I always recommend you guys reach out to a tax expert, a person like me, your tax guy. I'm Randy Gomez. So yeah, just shoot us an email, randy@rgtaxes.com, and we can set you up with an initial consultation and we'll look at your situation. But yeah, I don't recommend you go about doing this on your own. I do recommend you reach out to a professional. And if you have any other questions or have a specific question about your particular situation, our initial consultation process and service is for you. But yeah, reach out to us. But yeah, thank you again for coming on to another episode of Latinx Business, the solo episodes. And I hope this tax tip really helped you out today. Okay, bye. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and share this podcast with your network. Your support helps our Latinx business community grow stronger with every listen, and I truly invite you to connect with us. Send us your questions, your comments, or even your own business stories to randy@rgtaxes.com. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, keep learning, keep building your business, and keep growing your business mindset.